In 2007, two roommates in San Francisco were unable to pay their rent. The duo decided to convert their loft into a sleeping area with 3 air mattresses. Along with the mattresses and the promise of a good night's sleep came the promise of breakfast. The pair were aware that a large design conference was coming to San Francisco, which was making hotels difficult to come by. They established a simple website, airbedandbreakfast.com, and purchased 3 air mattresses. The pair met in college at the Rhode Island School of Design and thought that working as tour guides for designers would be a fun way to make money. Their first 2 visitors arrived, 2 men and 1 woman. Each visitor paid $80 to sleep on an air mattress. Amol, one of the guests, was a designer who assisted Joe and Brian with their presentations. Being one of the first Airbnb guests feels like I'm on The Tonight Show, Amol said in 2012. They quickly realized it had the potential to be a big idea. They teamed up with an old roommate to turn it into a business. They worked on a roommate matching service for 4 months before realizing roommates.com already existed. They then returned to work on Air Bed and Breakfast. Nobody noticed when the company launched a second time. The third time was at South by Southwest in 2008, but there were only 2 customers, one of whom was Chesky. By the summer of 2008, the founders had completed the final version of Air Bed and Breakfast and were ready to meet with investors. The entire experience had been redesigned to require only 3 clicks to book a stay, otherwise it was too difficult. Investors were skeptical. Introductions to 15 angel investors resulted in 8 rejections and 7 people completely ignoring them. They decided to launch Air Bed and Breakfast at the 2008 Democratic National Convention in Denver, despite being broke and in debt. People would seek alternative accommodations as they had learned from their first hosting experience. Because the site wasn't profitable, the guys turned cereal boxes into Obama O's and Captain McCain's and sold them on the streets for $40 each. Each one came with a limited edition number and company information. Their bootstrapped marketing strategy netted them $30,000 to invest in the business. Paul Graham was the only venture capitalist who took notice. Graham invited the guys to participate in Y Combinator, a prestigious startup accelerator that provides cash and training in exchange for a small stake in the company. The accelerator was where the company spent the first 3 months of 2009 perfecting their product. Even during Y Combinator, they were famously rejected by investors. Union Square Ventures' Fred Wilson admitted in 2011 that he had failed to see the business beyond the Air Bed and Breakfast name. We couldn't wrap our heads around the next hotel room being air mattresses on the living room floors, so we passed on the deal. Others saw the incredible team that we saw and funded them. The rest is history, Wilson penned later. The company kept up its scrappy business-building methods. Using their design backgrounds, the founders embarked on an ambitious project to win over the company's hosts. They personally stayed with all of their hosts in New York, wrote reviews, and professionally photographed their properties. In March 2009, the company finally dropped the Air Bed and Breakfast moniker in favor of Airbnb. There will be no perplexing associations with air mattresses. A month later, in April 2009, Airbnb received a $600,000 seed investment from Sequoia Capital. Chesky describes it as progressing from eating only leftover cereal to becoming ramen profitable. That's when the company accelerated its growth and learned a lot about their industry. When their employees crowded out the remaining bedroom space in their apartment, Chesky famously lived exclusively in Airbnbs for a few months in 2010. 4 years after the first air mattress guests, Airbnb was in 89 countries and had 1 million nights booked on the platform by 2011. Despite having attempted to launch 3 years prior, it finally won the Breakout Mobile App Award at South by Southwest. That same year, some of the Valley's biggest venture capitalists invested $112 million in the startup, valuing it at more than $1 billion. In Silicon Valley, this qualifies Airbnb as a unicorn. Soon after, the rapidly expanding startup hit a snag. One host's place was completely demolished. Other hosts began to complain about guests throwing ragers or leaving their place in disgusting condition the next morning. The company began implementing a coverage policy, eventually increasing it to a $1 million host guarantee by the summer of 2012. The company was also dealing with an increasing number of people who were being fined or evicted for renting out their property on Airbnb. Cities quickly encountered a growing problem with Airbnb rentals, and the company's regulatory issues began. With legal wranglings and rowdy guests plaguing the home-sharing platform, Airbnb decided to redesign in 2014. The new logo, known as the Bello, is immediately criticized for resembling genitalia rather than a symbol of belonging. Despite its emphasis on belonging, cities have begun to reject Airbnb rentals. In 2014, New York threatened to outlaw Airbnb and short-term rentals and fine every host. Many city ordinances made it illegal to rent out your unit for less than 30 days. Even Airbnb's hometown of San Francisco was dissatisfied. In the fall of 2015, the company spent more than $8 million to fight a citizen-led ballot initiative to limit Airbnb rentals. However, there's been some progress towards cities completely legalizing Airbnb. Even having the conversation with cities is significant to the company because it shows that they are willing to revisit old laws in the face of change. Despite the regulatory issues, the company attempted to live up to its Belong Anywhere promise. It began collecting hotel taxes and remitting them to certain cities. It has also promised to share some of its data with cities as part of a community compact. The odd rager and legislative wars haven't stopped the company from becoming a force, both with Silicon Valley and as a steadily growing competitor in the hotel industry. According to a new Goldman Sachs report, Airbnb users who use the service once are less likely to prefer hotels for their next vacation. Instead of a lack of investor reports, the company that once survived on leftover cereal boxes and was repeatedly turned down closed a $1.5 billion round of funding in 2015. The company that began with 3 broke roommates and 3 air mattresses is now worth more than $25 billion. Airbnb created a completely new type of vacation by providing lodging options other than hotels. They then discovered ways to expand their product and offer even more variety to a holiday after becoming a household name. Many businesses enjoy a little friendly banter on Twitter, but PR gaffes are a great way to get your name out there. Things can, however, go wrong, as when the guy confined in a bookstore became trending. What could have been a PR disaster for a bookstore became a fantastic opportunity for Waterstones and Airbnb. Airbnb was not concerned about appearing stupid or receiving a negative public reaction. They saw an opportunity and took advantage of it. The lesson is this: don't be afraid to follow trends because you might end up leading them. Airbnb understands the importance of high-quality photographs and thus offers all of its guests a free professional photo in order to maintain a consistent image and style on social media. They even spend more money on production than on promotion because they understand that great content always draws more attention. Travel enthusiasts choose Airbnb because the beautiful photographs on the Airbnb website inspire them. Airbnb is a community as well as a peer-to-peer service. They grew their user base by instilling trust in them. They encourage frequent dialogue, detailed profiles, and in-depth reviews. The engagement is fantastic. And with that being said, it's time to end our video. Subscribe to this channel for more amazing videos like this. We'll see you with another interesting story.